In the 1990s, pilots landing in Hong Kong followed an offset approach signal, guided toward an enormous checkerboard painted on a hillside. At around 600 feet, they would disconnect the autopilot and begin a 47-degree right turn while descending, flying manually right into the heart of the city. To understand why, we need to go back to 1925. Originally, no one planned to make it an international hub. It all started with a failed business venture. Sir Kai Ho and Mr. Ao Tak launched a luxury real estate project on reclaimed land. The project failed. They went bankrupt. The government took back the land, gave it their name, and called it Kai Tak. They built a simple grass strip there for an aero club. Then came World War II. The Japanese army occupied Hong Kong and transformed the site into a military air base. Prisoners of war were forced to build the first concrete runways, destroying ancient villages and even parts of the Kowloon walled city to salvage materials. After the war, Hong Kong exploded. Refugees flooded in, industry boomed, and apartment buildings sprouted up all around the airport. It's fair to say that the airport wasn't encroaching on the city. It was the city swallowing it whole. The arrival of the jet age had already trapped a 1920s airfield inside a 1990s megalopolis. Sitting on a tongue of reclaimed land, it was surrounded by water on three sides. To the north, Lion Rock, about 1,600 feet high, made any direct approach impossible. A special procedure was then put in place for runway 13, the IGS, or Instrument Guidance System. Unlike a classic ILS, the approach axis was offset by 47 degrees. Pilots followed the signal toward the checkerboard, and upon passing the intermediate marker at around 650 feet above ground, they had to acquire the visual reference, cut the autopilot, and begin a descending right turn. From that point on, instruments were useless. Everything was done visually, with manual flying. During the turn, passengers on the right side could literally see the streets below. The flight path passed directly over Kowloon City. Residents even claimed they could make out faces in the aircraft windows. Noise levels exceeded 100 decibels. Schools interrupted classes at every passing. For those living nearby, the sound of jet engines became a rhythm of life. Conversations stopped. The TV volume went up. Some people could even identify aircraft types by sound alone, including the iconic 747. Hong Kong is also exposed to typhoons. The winds would batter the already treacherous terrain and generate dangerous wind shear. Pilots used the crab technique. The aircraft angled into the wind, nose pointing toward the buildings while drifting sideways toward the runway. You probably know those alarms.
Terrain, pull up, pull up, pull up.
The ones that never stopped sounding. They triggered on every approach, and pilots were actually trained to ignore them. The runway was short, touchdown too late, and a 400-ton aircraft simply could not stop. In November 1993, this is exactly what happened to China Airlines Flight 605. The aircraft touched down too far along the runway. In typhoon conditions, it floated, used up all the remaining distance, and the captain realized he could not stop. He steered left to avoid the approach lights, and the plane ended up in Victoria Harbour. Operations resumed in the afternoon. At night, the approach became even more complex. It was impossible to distinguish the sea from the mountains. The city became a carpet of light with no horizon. Pilots followed a series of strobe lights installed on rooftops, creating the illusion of a glowing ball leading to the runway. Some airlines even required specific simulator training before allowing their captains to operate at Kai Tak. In the 1990s, the airport handled more than 450 movements per day on a single runway, a takeoff or landing every 2 to 3 minutes. A new airport simply had to be built. That is why, on July 5, 1998, at 11 p.m., a massive transfer began. A complete shift of all operations to a site 30 kilometers away, accomplished in 6 hours with 1,200 vehicles. Without any transition period, the last flight departed Kai Tak, and 6 hours later, the first one landed at the new airport. But at 2:30 in the morning, the new airport's computer system crashed. No aircraft parking management, baggage carousels stopped, screens went dark, the cargo system went offline. With flights on approach just hours away, the engineers had no choice but to improvise, work around the failures, and switch to emergency mode. And the remarkable thing is, it worked. At 10:05, 6 hours after the last flight left Kai Tak, the first commercial flight landed at the new Chek Lap Kok Airport. The old terminal sat empty for years. The checkerboard on the hillside is still there, slowly being eaten away by time. Spotters speak of a genuine sense of loss. Today, Kai Tak has become a park and a cruise terminal. The checkerboard still exists, hidden beneath the vegetation. The new airport is an engineering feat, an entire island leveled and expanded through reclamation over more than 3,000 acres. But building on the sea has its cost. The ground is gradually sinking, what is known as settlement, as artificial land compacts into marine sediments. The runways are under constant monitoring. Kai Tak was dangerous because of the mountains. Chek Lap Kok now battles the ocean. Either way, in aviation history, it is always the same story, forcing infrastructure where it was never meant to be. First, a runway squeezed between apartment blocks. Then, an island built on the sea. The old airport has vanished and is slowly sinking once more.